All right, so this is the Phylo deck of cards, and you'll notice that there are a lot of cards that are different, but there are some that are the same. We have species cards, there are event cards, and then there's these really important cards that you're going to need to find at the beginning of the game that say home card on them. Okay, so you're looking for the home card. That might be upside down. There you go, home card.
So some things that are on the cards, and I'm going to pull some of the species cards out to talk about, is on our species card, you have the common name. You also have the scientific name. In the top right corner, you're going to have a scale number, and that's just going to be the number with no color. And then you have a food chain number that's in a circle. And there is a colored circle, so that refers to what type of food that organism eats and what its diet is. At the bottom of the card, you're going to see symbols that represent the type of terrain that this organism lives in, as well as in the bottom right corner, words that describe the climate for that organism. So if I look at two cards next to each other, I can see that these two species cards are slightly different. I have phytoplankton and zooplankton. Phytoplankton has a yellow circle, meaning it is an autotroph and it makes its own food. Zooplankton is a black circle, meaning it has like another source for its food. There are also circles that are going to have a brown, meaning they are an omnivore, eating both meat and plants. And you have organisms that are a red circle for carnivore. And then there are also species cards that have a green circle, meaning they're herbivores and they eat only plants. One thing that is going to be important to note is that if you are when you're making your food chains, if you have a carnivore eating another carnivore or a carnivore eating an omnivore, that scale number, that number that is not in the circle, needs to be greater than whatever it's feeding on. And in the case of this blue whale card, there's also additional instructions that relate to what it can specifically eat. So you have to read your card to see if it limits what your diet is.
So when you're first starting the game, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your deck and you're going to need to find those two home cards that I was mentioning earlier. So there's one for me, and here's another one. So each player is going to start with a home card. Now, something that's really important is you need the cards to face you. So this card, since it is facing me, is like my card. This card facing Ms. Dominguez is her card. So the reason this matters is because once we have all of our food chains and everything, all the cards that are facing me are the cards that I play, and that's how I get points for them. All the cards that are facing Mrs. Dominguez, she gets points for those, and so that's how she wins. The goal of the game is to get the most points. So once you have the home cards out, then what you do is you're going to shuffle the deck. And then you're going to split it in half. Almost done. Lots of cards. Okay, so that is going to become Mrs. Dominguez's deck, and this is going to become my deck. Now, at the beginning of the game, we're each going to need 5 cards. So I'm going to pick up 5 cards that are mine. Normally, you'd want to hold them in your hand like this so no one can see them, but since we're trying to teach you, we're going to play them down just like Ms. Dominguez did. Now, at the beginning of every single turn, you are going to pick up a card from your pile and place it down in front of you. That way you have an additional card. So what you're going to do is you are going to start around these home cards. When you place cards, you can put them underneath, making a food chain this way. You could put them to the side, making a food chain that way. You could put it on the top. But notice, I should use an organism card. Notice how it's still facing me because I'm playing this card. I can't play this card first because this is a card that has a 3 in the top circle, and which means that it is not a food source, or it is not making its own food. So this organism would not survive. Since looking at my cards that I picked up, this is the only organism card that I have. Everything else is an event card. I essentially can't take a turn. So what I can choose to do is I can choose to get rid of one of these cards. I'll put it in a discard pile. And then I will get to take 3 more cards, and that is one of my turns. I think that was 3. And that's all that I'm going to do, or I guess I can play this. I will play that plant, and I know it's a plant, it's an autotroph because it has a number 1 right there. Whoops. So I can play it. I'll just play it to the side of my home card. And now my turn is over. Each turn you get 3 actions, and so I am done.
So now that it's my turn, I'm gonna pick up 1 card. And like Ms. Sherman said, I get 3 actions, and those actions can either be playing my species, playing an event card, such as this, or like Ms. Sherman had done, you can discard a card and get 3 new cards. Looking at my cards, I do have one of those autotrophs, so I'm probably gonna make it start kind of to the side of my home card. I can, though, play off of any card on this table. So just because Ms. Sherman played this autotroph card, that doesn't mean that I can't play off of it. I can still make a food chain and continue that food chain with that card. So I've made 1 action. I've played one of my species cards. I am also going to play this herbivore card that is at my 2nd level on the food chain, and I'm also going to play this one. Now, even though I brought the food chains kind of down, we can still kind of go out, we can go down. There are multiple ways, and we can even have branches coming off of those food chains. But I've now made my 3 actions, so my turn is over.
So a really important thing is when she was placing these here, the climates have to match up, and so do the
terrain.
The terrain, thank you. So we have matching terrain here, okay? And since at least one of them matches each other, they're kind of hard to see probably in the video, but the terrain, these like shapes at the bottom right here are some buildings, and there are some buildings here. And then when I look at the climate, this says cool, warm, hot, cool, warm, hot. So since they can survive in the same climate and live in the same terrain, this card is able to be played. Same thing here. This one has cool, warm, hot, and this one has cold, cool, warm. So because they have more than 1 in common, and because they have more than 1 terrain in common, that card is able to be played. So now for my turn, I'm going to look, and I still only have 1 organism card right here, this bird.
You get to draw a card too.
Oh yes, I do get to draw a card. So let me draw my card. That was a good call. I have so many cards now. Okay, I'll put these on top of each other since there's 2 of the same. So this nutcracker bird has a food chain level of 3, and it has a size of 5. So I'm gonna look, it says cool, cold, and then I see the terrain symbols here. So it looks like this bird could potentially eat that honeybee. Now, the reason I'm gonna leave it facing this way, facing me, is so that at the end of the game, I get those 2 points, okay? So that is my first action. For my second action, let's do a wildfire, just so you can see how an event card would work. So I'm going to do a wildfire event card. It says, place on top of any species card that has grassland or forest terrain. See, this has grasslands. So this is one of Mrs. Dominguez's cards. I know it's because it's facing her. So if I put this card on top, it takes that one away.
And now I have an incomplete food chain. So I don't have a card that's connecting it. Instead, what I need to do is on my turn, I will have my 3 actions to try to reconnect my food chain. And if I'm able to, this card gets to remain. If I'm not, this card would also get discarded. So I'm going to leave it here until it's my turn to see if I'm able to save my honeybee.
So that was my second action. And then for my third action, I think I'm going to take this other wildfire card and I'm going to discard it. And I'm going to get 3 new cards because I want to get organism cards so I can play them here and earn points. All right, and my turn is over.
So now as I start my turn, I drew 1 card. I drew a species card. What I will do is decide to discard a card, and I will draw 3 cards to hopefully get something that I can play. Wish I had this card when Miss Sherman had played her Wildfire. This is a species protection card. So if somebody plays an event card on your species, you can play this to save that species. But instead, I got it a little late. What I am going to do is realize, I think I'm going to have to sacrifice that honeybee. I don't have any cards in front of me that are going to help save it. So I am just going to let that get discarded. But instead, I have a phytoplankton and I have a krill, Pacific krill, that says I have to feed on a plankton species card. So I can only play this on a type of plankton species. So I'm also going to place that Pacific krill, making my 3 turns.
So me watching out for this, I see that, I know because I can see them this time. I know she has this blue whale card, and that blue whale card is worth a lot of points. So if there's anything that I can do to prevent that card from being played, that is something that I want to do. So I have an oil spill card. And the oil spill card says, place this card on any ocean or freshwater-based species card. This species card is immediately discarded. So if I put this on the Pacific krill, then the krill goes away. And the krill is the only food source for that blue whale. So I could take that.
But I have my protection card, and I know that I need that for the blue whale. So if I play that card instead, then we keep my krill.
So that was my first action. Now I still get more. I'm looking at this sea otter here. I know the sea otter's in the ocean. I know that the krill are in the ocean, and I think that that would be a great food for my sea otter. So I'm going to have my sea otter right there. That is my second action. And as my third action, I have this stellar sea lion. Now it has the same food chain number, but since it has a bigger size, it can actually eat that sea otter in this game. So I can play my sea otter or my sea lion right there, and that completes my third action.
And so the game continues as we just pull a card each turn. You make your 3 actions. This time around, I would probably play my blue whale to eat the krill since it needs to have krill for its diet.
And it's getting, the food chain can go this way, 1, 2, 3. Right? It can follow a crooked path as long as they are not diagonal.
Mm-hmm. The other thing to go along with that. So I just drew a card, but what we want to do, Ms. Sherman and I, we want to explain 1 card and then explain how we end the game instead of just continuing and you watch us play back and forth. So
this climate change card is a really interesting one. It says, place this card on top of any species card to immediately remove. Sorry, it's probably better for you that way. Can you read the rest?
So what Ms. Sherman would do is she would put it on any species card that she wants. Now, what's best is to do it on a card that will have a chain reaction, because with this card, it'll immediately get rid of that one species, but then it gets to move to a neighboring species, and we play rock, paper, scissors to see if that species also is discarded.
So since these 2 cards are mine, I don't want to eliminate my cards. So, but that blue whale's worth a lot of points. So I'm going to put it on top of the blue whale. Let me play rock, paper, scissors.
Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Oh!
I win. So that card goes away now. And then I still have this climate change card. Can it move diagonally?
I believe it is only next to.
So it's done. But it got rid of her highest point card. So mission accomplished. But I've kind of stranded myself. So now I would need to figure out something to make it so that these 2 are not stranded. So if something is not connected to a food source, since this sea otter needs something to eat, I would need to have something here. So by doing that, I kind of stranded myself. I probably should have just put it on her whale or maybe on the phytoplankton. So that probably wasn't the smartest move I could have done, but that's how the game works sometimes.
And so the game progresses where you alternate as you work through your deck. But when you get to the bottom of your deck, so I'm just going to leave like one card left. Say it's my turn and I pick up my last card. Now, even if Miss Sherman has cards remaining in her deck, this is going to be the last round of turns. So I will make a turn and Miss Sherman will make a turn. And based on whatever cards we have left, we can kind of finish out our turns. Once we are done, say I play my cards, we have our food chains, Miss Sherman gets her turn. If she played like her habitat loss event card on one of my cards and left me stranded, I would still get the one opportunity to try to help my my stranded species, if that were the case.
Because the game's never going to end on an event card. Someone's always going to have a chance to save the species before the game is over. So if this was going to be my last turn and I played this, saying that this habitat was going to be gone, she would have one chance to save her species.
So when the game is over, once you each have played your last turn, you are going to collect all your cards that are facing you, because those are your cards that you played. And on your cards, there are point values, and they are on the right side of the card about midway. And you're going to calculate how many points you had, and whoever has the most points is the winner.
So you'll notice that things that are lower in the food chain are worth lower points. So you need those things that are lower in the food chain to get to the stuff higher in the food chain, but you're not going to win by just having a bunch of plants or a bunch of autotrophs. You need a bunch of like 7-point cards because they're on food chain level 3. Okay? Thanks for watching.